Okay.
There we go. Now you can hear us, right? Hello. Hey.
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Woo. All right. Sorry, I'm facing this way. Okay, welcome to our February meeting. All right. Let's see, how many of you girls are out flying? So we saw them out flying today and stuff. How many of your hives made it through the winter? Yay. 75%, so I'm not feeling too bad about that and stuff like that. Okay, we have a variety of things, some information. The hives are no longer at Sugar Grove, they're at my house. We'll be doing hive inspections there. There was some management change, so made some different decisions. So
yeah, I wanted to talk about that just a little bit because those are club hives. So
right.
I'd love to know a little bit more about that. We had concerns with the operating environment out there. The board was making some you know, unusual decisions. And
Their board.
Their board, yeah, not our board. Our board's great. They had actually closed down the nature center house itself where we had our observation hive, so we wouldn't be able to get into it to manage the hive, and nobody could see it, so there's not much point of having an observation hive that nobody could see. And they had canceled a lot of events in there, so there weren't things for us to participate in there, and we were concerned that we would get very short notice and be asked to move our hives. So we proactively decided to move the hives when it was convenient for us and for the girls, and we moved them over to PK's place.
So anyhow, when we do the hive inspections, it's going to be at my place. So and that my thoughts are at this point in time, the second and fourth Saturday of the month, doing the hives inspection. And also, but if those schedules don't mesh with yours, I am totally open because they're right there. Just say, hey, I'm available on Wednesday. Can I come out? Absolutely.
So for those that are new here, there's a few new cases, but where's your house?
Oh, I am southwest of Hayward. I'm in the Hayward suburbs. So yeah, so you know this actually if you look at where you send the information, the 6424 Alexander Road, Hayward, that's me, that's where it's at. It is about 6 miles southwest of Hayward. So
south of the quarries.
Yeah. So there's I'll warn you, GPS likes to take down the gravel road, but there's 2 roads that aren't gravel, so you can just let me know. But again, I'm flexible with my time for the most part. So, you know, Tuesday and Thursday I kind of work out, but just let me know if it's, you know, it's kind of like Saturdays don't work for me because sometimes some people can't be available on Saturday. And we can go through the girls. Right now, 3 of them are good. Lost the top of our hive. The one that you said that didn't, you said kind of smell. They were gone, but it was real interesting. And then you might be able, as I disassembled it, there was 2 frames with eggs and a hatched larvae, wow, which I thought was weird.
So real quick, why do we have club hives? What's the story there?
Okay. Originally, when we were an ISU club, various members had a hive. We decided to consolidate them into one area. And what we do is kind of give you a hands-on opportunity to see what's going on in a hive. Because a lot of you are new and it's kind of, okay, I don't know, to actually pick up a frame with these, look at them and have somebody kind of mentor you through an inspection. Okay, and how I typically do it, I have you pick up a frame, then I say, well, you know, what do you see there? What do you, come on in, Lynette. Come on in, find a seat. We can find a chair for you. Go harass Matt. Okay, he'll bite. Be careful. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So again, so trying to get you where you look at a frame, see what you're seeing. What do you see? Why some of your decision makings you have when you do inspections, what's going on. So we want to be able to give you that opportunity because sometimes you do your hives, but until you go through a variety of hives, sometimes it's hard to kind of know what I'm looking at. What do I see? Because every once in a while, the girls will throw you a curveball without any problems at all. You're kind of like, well, what does that mean? And so different things like that. So we have some different styles of hives. So we've got the Langstroth, but we also have a top bar hive. which is a tough management, then some people want to do it. Like Polly thought about it and kind of like, then she came out and saw it and kind of like, maybe not. You know, so it's something to look at there. We have the styrofoam hive, you know, how does that work and how does that manage and some things like that. So we have some different varieties if you're thinking about, yeah, I wonder what that piece of equipment looks like and that. So I'm very open to people coming out and, you know, coming out. I am very rural, a lot of trees, a lot of flowers that I plant and things like that. But, okay.
So
Bee-
oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, we had a very successful beekeeping 101 class. We had 60 plus,
62 people came.
62 people. So we've got a lot more members in our club. And
If you're in that class, raise your hand.
awesome. Yeah, well,
So just to recap on that class too, one thing that we do that's really cool about the beekeeping 101 is if you take it once, you can come back as an alumni and take it again. Because a lot of times that first year, you're lost completely. Sometimes maybe your second year, you might be lost completely. But like, you can run through more than once.
what's hard to find?
You'll get some experience.
We have worked on that, yes. And again, sometimes I'll take a class and maybe the 10th time, Tom says something that kind of triggers a thought in my head and went, oh, I didn't think about that. So a lot of times, just even, you know, I know a lot, but I can always learn. Because again, sometimes just the ideas that are out there can make some difference. Now, Lynette's in, I've got another class going at Heartland and we've got 10 there. So that's 72 new beekeepers just this spring for us. So, and she found us from Germany. That I thought was kind of impressive and things like that. Bees and Brews, Crawford's Pub. That's the second Wednesday of the month. We're going to be at Crawford's Pub. It's on West Chestnut in Bloomington. And that's an opportunity for the people who like to talk bees to actually talk with other people who want to hear about bees, as opposed to my husband doesn't want to hear about bees and stuff. So, you know, so again, so time to ask people and say, hey, Tom, can I come out to your place and check out your hives and stuff? Matt, can we come up to your place and check out hives? You know, so this is an opportunity to kind of meet other beekeepers. They may be like, okay, Matt is real close to you. I mean, okay, when I went out to his place, we walked around, I could see Dusty's, that organic greenhouse was kind of like, I know them right there. So, yeah, and stuff. So, you know, Matt's up north, so you can find maybe a beekeeper that's kind of close to you. So again, mentoring and seeing how other people do things helps you learn. That's things that I do is not something that Steve would do. It would not be something that Joe does. You know, so we all manage hives a little different. You have to find what type of management will work for you. So this is an opportunity. It's not that any of us are always right or always wrong. It's just different styles. And again, what will work for you?
As
Right?
PK mentioned, her husband Bob doesn't do bees, but he does like to drink beer. So you can,
We can bring beer there or
Yeah.
mead. I'm
but you can bring your spouses or partners or significant others and hang out as well.
Actually, if you've got a friend that's kind of like, you know, when they start listening to you talk about bees, you're kind of like, oh, I kind of like to see that. I have extra suits. We can suit you up and they can come too. So you might be recruiting a new beekeeper.
So the idea there behind the Bees and Brews is that usually, even though it's called Bees and Brews, it's usually at a place that serves food, so you can bring your kids. Then the other piece of it is that it's a casual environment where we don't have a structured meeting agenda where we have to follow, where you can meet and ask questions and say, hey, I got something weird going on, or I think I have something weird going on that's not weird, but you don't know. It's a great way to meet other people to go work bees with. It's also a great opportunity when somebody, kind of the idea behind it was when Green Top Co-op was starting, they asked me to come out and speak, and I said, well, better yet, let's get a whole bunch of beekeepers out and have a panel discussion and let the community ask questions that they want to know. And it was a huge success. And I think we had 100 and some people there that night, maybe 150 people there that night in the place that we were at. And it's a great opportunity for us to tell the community about what we're about, to say, if you want to buy honey, here's your people, right? Here's the people that have honey. And maybe you want to buy from this guy because you're right by his house by 6 points, or maybe you're in Forest or something like that, and you don't want to drive all the way into town. Or maybe you like the way this person does their thing, or maybe your kids go to school with that kid. It lets them meet all these other people that raise bees and not just one or two people that might be, more known in the area. So we can educate the community about bees too.
Yeah. I was gonna start a junior beekeeping program, but with the shift at Sugar Grove, it's kind of like, I might have to step back a little bit and go for it next year. And it is my plan within that, so, that did change it. We do have a guest. Introduce yourself, young man.
My name is Andrew O'Connell. I am the Central Region Director for the ISBA. And I'm visiting your club to relay back to the ISBA, feedback from your club regarding things that you want from the ISBA. And to give you guys an idea of what's coming up, the summer meeting for 2023 is in Quincy, Illinois, July 14th and July 15th. It's posted, you can purchase tickets. It's gonna be pretty,
Tell us about that a little bit.
yeah, it's gonna be pretty rocking. They've got a couple guys that I've seen on YouTube, a fellow by the name of Cayman Reynolds.
Oh, nobody knows him.
Well, I haven't watched his videos, but because I'm not
Yeah,
too keen on YouTube, but I do acknowledge it's a resource and it's a healthy resource. And the other fellow who I have watched and I'm paying very much attention to is Corey Stevens with regards to his VSH gene queen raising and how he does it, AI. I haven't met him. I've only been in emails with him. But that's happening at the summer meeting. And they have a variety of speakers from, I think, Beekeeping Like a Girl, a young lady.
Oh,
that's-
okay.
Hey, apparently you guys know her. Well,
You're not a girl.
Really, I need to brush up. Answer. So, well, anyway, moving forward, I want to let you know that a lot of effort has been made to get this going. They've gotten a grant from the city of Quincy for $15,000.
Wow.
They have gotten another grant for $3,000. It's run by Tom Stark and the Mississippi Valley Beekeepers. These guys are on it like a yard dog with a bone, and they are going out here. Say again?
It's been there a couple of years now, right? It's been there more than once.
I do not know. The last summer meeting was held at Red Lake. And the last summer meeting was in northern Chicago, or is in Chicago. And the year before that was Red Lake. I don't know about the year before that.
And it does sell out. It has sold out in the past.
I don't know.
It has.
So I'm very new to the Central Region Director and I'm learning as I go. I kind of suck at this, so.
Hey, but, okay, so, we, part of your membership, so part of your membership goes to your ISBA membership.
Yes.
And so he's showing what they do, because sometimes, you have those other entities over us that kind of make some help and do some things, but we don't know about it. And so what they're trying to do is educate us on what they do. So that support is a two-way street.
So to that point, you guys are the last B group, B organization that I have been to in the Central Region. So I'm ending with you guys, and our next board meeting is next Tuesday. So right now, the ISBA is looking for feedback, especially concerning the summer meeting. Sources of revenue. The ISBA wanted to probe and see what you guys thought about raising dues. If this is a possibility, is it in your wheelhouse? Oh, I'm a sailor. That's my primary occupation. I sail on ships. So, sorry about the wheelhouse reference. So anyway, they're looking for sources of revenue. We're asking you guys, hey, what do you think? And the overwhelming feedback that I've been getting is, well, I'm really not against raising the dues, but where's the ISBA been? And I don't really have a good answer for that because I just walked into this role, but we're very actively pursuing in-person meetings with guest speakers. Very much so. We want to see more of that. A lot of the clubs have made great effort to have people, give these presentations. I think the best example was a fellow by the name of Will Banks came down to Central Eastern Illinois Beekeeping Association over in Champaign. And I had not met the president here, but I actually created a president email list where hopefully they stay in contact with each other. When they have an awesome guest speaker, they have Zoom available or in person, let people know. People are very, very hungry for education. And the ISBA is trying to provide it by coordinating you guys, the clubs, and you're by far as the library. That is such a cool idea. I want to share it with the other clubs now. And that's one of the things that I've been learning. A lot of the clubs are doing really neat stuff, and hopefully I can present it to the presidents. Hey, this is some of the neat stuff I've seen, and get folks in line. Moving on, I hope to be present here, especially since you guys are easy to get to. I'm from Springfield, Illinois. And you're the, which Tuesday of the month? Last Tuesday?
Fourth Tuesday.
Fourth Tuesday. You're the only club that meets on the fourth Tuesday of the month, so. I can do that. We have the first Thursday of the month, 4 clubs in the central region meet. So that's a tough one. That's gonna be tough.
Okay.
So one of the things maybe the ISBA can get a little bit more involved with is helping out some of the communities that are looking into bee regulations.
That is pretty much their role. So there's a young lady on Facebook. Can't remember her name, but she inquired. I reached out to her and I said, you're in the northern region, and I outlined some of the stuff the ISBA can do, and we can do a lot, especially with regards to state law. Municipal law, it's more the regional directors, but state law, the Rich Ramsey tries to stay on top of that. When it comes to the more local law, municipal and county law and stuff like that, if we have a city that would like to have beekeeping allowed, the best one to look at is probably Springfield, Illinois. That has no dues or licenses. You're allowed 4 hives up to 10,000 square feet for your home inside the municipal ordinance, or what do they call it, property line?
Yeah.
Zone.
We actually used the Springfield one to try and model out the one.
It's
Yeah.
a really good one to do,
Yeah.
because it doesn't cost you, the beekeeper, any money to keep bees.
Right.
And it's very reasonable. Some of them can get pretty
Oh.
rough. You have to pay permit fees and
Wow.
they can get kind of silly.
Yeah, typically what happens, what I have seen is a city wants to redo their zoning laws, and there are companies out there that, okay, here's your zoning laws, and now just kind of fine tune them. And they don't have no idea how to do beekeeping.
Yeah, that's what Bloomington.
And that's what Bloomington, they did, it's kind of like, so we went in and kind of chopped and got them to modify it a little bit, but yeah, these companies come in and with all their Bloomington was doing all their zoning laws. And so, whether it's chickens, whatnot, all of it was at, building codes and all that. It was like a whole little packet they were given. And
As Louis just said, they did reach out to us
right,
for advice.
Yeah.
And I think Leroy was just doing the same thing.
right. They just had theirs, Tom and I came,
We just passed it.
and passed it. Well, it was helpful that on your council, there's 2 beekeepers. That was helpful. That's 3? Oh,
I'm on
He's
the
on
zoning,
zoning
zoning.
oh, okay.
We passed it and the council was
Yeah, that was helpful and stuff. 'Cause, and that was it. Okay,
Yeah, when I'm made aware of stuff like that, I'll reach out to the folks and try to cooperate with them.
Yeah.
That's literally our role.
yeah,
Good
because
enough.
Springfield was one that we saw that was a good one, a very reasonable. And saying, oh, here's a good one, and an example of a similar sized town, similar area and stuff like that, so. Okay. Lead in, okay, raise your hand, Miss Cynthia.
What?
Trust me.
Lead in.
Oh, raise your hand. Oh, yes. Okay, she is our equipment manager. This is Cynthia and her husband James. She manages their equipment, but the library that we have, well over 200 books. And I encourage you to go in, and sometimes you want a book at home, because sometimes you don't know what to ask for on internet, you kind of like, well, this is happening in my bees, and I'm not sure what. Just having one or two good reference books at home is helpful for you to kind of flip through and, oh, I didn't know about that. Because sometimes when you search on the internet, you've got to know what you're searching for. And this is what, so you can check out the books, check out and see if that's one you want to possibly secure. Typically a month, what she'll do, we've got, there's a place on our website, you can click on it and see what books they have, what we have. And Cynthia was more than willing to bring them to a meeting to you, or you can just browse through the library at their shop. It's on Normal, where the Kroger College and Veterans area. That's where their shop is at. And they have that.
Yeah, we have a computer repair business called Advanced Computing. And we're normal, James and I are normally there from 10 to 6, but it's open 8 to 6.
Okay.
Our other technician, you know, if you come in at 8 o'clock and the books are in an area where you can sit down.
Just thumb through them and it's
Thumb
kinda
through
like,
it,
oh,
see if that's the one you want.
yeah. And in fact, we even have some of the what are the 1941 stuff? American Bee Journal.
We've got some of that.
Yeah, so we've got, you know, like 4 or 5 from the 1940s American Bee Journal, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Anybody interested in old books, we've got some old books that have the beekeeping back then. You know, if you're just curious, some people
Yeah, some of
like
these,
history.
what's our oldest, 18 what?
Well, I'm
Eight.
one of your.
Okay, my sister loves books, so she'd go to the old used bookstores and buy anything on bees she bought and gave to me. But we've got some books from the late 1800s that were on beekeeping. So again, you can sometimes see how things have changed, where it's going and things like that. Okay,
That said, a lot of the old school is new school.
Yeah.
So like the ABC, XYZ, beekeeping, some of that, like the stuff Mel Kaufman does with on the spot queenery, it was written about in the 1920s. So it's just making people aware of it. So a lot of the old school stuff is definitely worth reading.
yeah, so. Okay, anything else I should announce? Yes, sir,
I'm just a noob here.
a
but
noob?
I remember talking to you last fall. Isn't the club equipment also kept
Yes,
in that library?
She's our equipment manager.
yeah, so.
So you have extraction kits, you know, so you have the extractors. We do now have 2. We've got a 6-frame radial, we've got a 4-frame tangent. We've got the extracting kit has the filters, has the knives, has the tubs, has the buckets. Basically knife,
Yeah.
anything you need for extraction, there is like a kit, you can take it. We do ask that it comes back clean, you know, in that respect. So looking at that, so.
Yes,
So-
and if you know, next Saturday, you're gonna be doing it and you need the extractor, please either call me or email or Facebook and let me know ahead of time so I can reserve it, because just for example, I believe it was September of
Yeah.
last
Yeah,
year in 2022. The kit was gone pretty much the whole month, and we had people waiting. So just make sure, like I said, if you think that weekend is the weekend and you need to borrow the equipment.
Yeah.
As soon as you can tell me 2 months ahead.
yeah, so there are certain times of the year where that we all typically kind of harvest, so it gets to be a premium. So, you know, like, okay, so if you're extracting, you know, a dead out and stuff like that, you know, in March, okay, you're not going to have a lot of competition. You may be able to have it a little longer, but like in September, when it's kind of doing a turnover, you know, again, maybe 5 days of the, you know, we kind of try to get it.
At the most.
Yeah, so
but-
trying to turn over, somebody else is waiting for it and stuff like that. So that's part of your membership that you have. So whether it's the library, whether it's equipment,
We've got the oxalic acid kit too.
Yeah.
For those who want to, oxalic acid,
for light treatment.
for my treatment, yes.
So and you know, we've got candle molds. And because if you go out and price those things, they're about $30 a piece. And you know, and if we've got 10 of them, you know, your game's ahead. All right.
Yeah, we're planning on one meeting this year on candle making only, or something of that
Maybe.
nature,
Could be.
with candles.
Okay.
dealing
I
with
can't remember
candles.
that one. Okay, yeah,
I know Kim.
Or it might be products of the hive.
yeah, maybe that's,
You know.
yeah, so his wife is a great one on like salves and lotions and stuff like that. She was fantastic. Good thing she puts up with you.
Wow.
All right. Okay. To introduce our speaker for the evening, John O'Brien. He is Bill's son. He was a youth scholarship recipient to go to the highlight. How long have you been keeping bees, John?
3 years.
3 years. So you can see that he's a go-getter within this. So and he's gonna talk about highlights and then he's gonna talk about broodcomb. So the show is now yours.
Okay. So, yeah, my name's John. I have been beekeeping for 3 years, as I said. And I'm gonna go over the Hive Life Conference, which is a beekeeping conference that's held in Sevierville, Tennessee. And the main purpose is basically just for a bunch of beekeepers to get together, learn from other beekeepers, and just enhance your knowledge. So, okay. All right, so this is the schedule. So the classes start on Friday. You can go and register Thursday and Friday morning, and they go through Saturday. It's really relaxed on time. So you can have there's 2 classes at a time. So if one isn't really for you, you can go to another one. They're only about an hour long, and then there's a half-hour break in between each one. So there's also like a 2.5 hour to 3 hour lunch period. So you can go to the trade show, which I'll also get into, to where you can look at new like equipment or stuff that you may want to buy. So the trade show is also where a bunch of vendors come in. So like Hilco is there and local places. And most of them do have sales. So it's like 10% off any equipment, high flash sale. And if you've ever thought about maybe buying certain things for beekeeping, you can go there because they have representatives there and other beekeepers that have used it. So if you have any questions on it, it's a great time to ask or maybe get to know certain things better. So there are a lot of speakers, guest speakers. Some of them we have seen, like Ian Stepler, people that are prominent on social media and people who are on YouTube. So you may have already heard of some of them. And they're the speakers. They have many years of experience and they're from all different regions and climates. So most of them are assigned topics that are relevant to them. So like Ian Stepler talks about like the cold and how he deals with harsh winters because he lives in Canada. So then there is the map. So there's 3 main rooms that you will spend most of the time in the convention center, which it's held in. There is room A in the middle, which is where your trade show is. Room B, which is the biggest room. Most of your events are held there. Your lunch is held in there. And then room C is where the other event is usually held, or the second class. There's multiple restrooms throughout. Every room has one. So if you ever need to go, they're not few and far between. The center does have its own food court in case you need like water or a slight snack. You can buy stuff there. But there's also stuff in the trade show. And then there's also, I don't know if you can see it too well, but a little picture down there showing the honey show. That is another thing they have there. And it's where you can go in, insert your honey, and they have a team of judges who will judge, and whichever person wins will get free tickets, or at least did last year. They get free tickets the next year. And someone from Illinois did win. So if you do go, I'd try that. And then how I got there. So I got
Use my picture.
no, but I did anyway. I got there through a youth sponsorship program, which Cayman Reynolds started, and he is the one who ran the event. So the goal for that sponsorship program is to, end quotes, equip the next generation of serious beekeepers with an advanced knowledge, networking opportunities, and exciting experiences. So I got chosen along with 25 other kids, which allowed me to go to the conference for free and have meals. So I basically got the premium tickets, bring my dad as well, and $250 reimbursement for a hotel. So basically full ride, I would say. So I also got this pretty cool t-shirt, exclusive. And how I was able to do that is, or how they judged it, is I had to make a little video and fill out a form basically saying who I was, how old I was, and how long I've been beekeeping, my plans for beekeeping in the future. And they just wanted to, and they judged it based on the best people that they think are most serious about beekeeping and who could benefit from it the most. So
John, how did you find out about the scholarship?
I found out because I watched him on YouTube and I heard about it and I thought it was pretty cool. And my mom kind of like forced me to do it. But
Sometimes parents really know what they're talking.
yeah,
We'll push out of the out.
And there was kids that did not make the highlight because they were too shy to make a
Not
video.
comfortable in front of.
And they emailed Cayman Reynolds and said, I'd really like to come, but I'm too shy to video. And he kind of put something out there, like, sometimes you gotta get out of your comfort zone, sorry. Don't do a video, you don't get a chance, so.
and so the program itself is, as I said, a way for young beekeepers to be able to go and get more knowledge and get a buildup of resources to equip them with knowledge to be better beekeepers in the future. And the reason they did it is because he feels that it's really important for young beekeepers to get into it and to be able to be equipped to have all the knowledge they need. And because if people don't get interested or don't have the opportunity to learn things, then new people won't come in and it'll slowly deteriorate. So as I said, it's run by Cayman Reynolds and he ran the program and did everything. So my personal experience, it was really relaxed. Everything was pretty chill. We were able to go around, talk with people, but also have a lot of information given to us. We were able to take notes and everything was set up very well. All the subjects were interesting, relevant, and again, if you didn't really think something was for you or didn't think you needed to know it, you could just go to a different class and learn things. So the schedule was put together well, really good on time, and they set up a little kind of gift bag that vendors put in samples so you could see who was going to be there. They gave you a program, so everyone had a schedule, everyone knew what was going on, so you didn't have to really ask. And obviously, each vendor gave something. Well, most of the big vendors gave something, so you knew kind of what was going to go on. Now I am going to get into something that I learned or heard a lot about at Hive Life that I found was interesting, which is comb rotation. So I did get another source, even though I learned all this at Hive Life. It's carolinahoneybees.com. So, and there's a lot of others. If you want to know more about a lot of these things, you can just look it up. But I learned about comb rotation. Beeswax is a natural filter and that it sucks up contaminants. So when bees bring nectar into a hive, it's usually pretty dirty, but the comb will suck up all of the contaminants and kind of will filter. So also fungicides and pesticides are everywhere and slowly get brought into the hive by all the forager bees. And certain varroa treatments, not oxalic acid though, will be sucked in and it won't really dissolve or anything, so it'll just stay in the comb. And after so many years of different chemicals and things getting put into the comb, it'll become toxic and can reduce the lifespan of your bees. Another part of that reducing the lifespan is the brood cocoons, which the bees leave, really thin cocoon in the cell. Over years, that will reduce the size and change the shape of the cell, so you will have smaller bees. So it is good after a while to change your comb. So like once it gets like really dark brown and black and the cells are just really like round, it's probably time to go. But most scientists, from what I've heard, have said 5 to 6 years is a good time. There have been like improvements every 2 to 3, but that's not really realistic as it's really expensive and takes a lot for the bees to make. So a good rule of thumb is if you replace like 2 frames of comb every year. I mean, if you have a 5 or 10 frame box, that's 5 years and it will never get that old. And another way that I thought about it is bees in nature, they don't really last over 10 years. So a hive with that old of comb, once that hive dies out, wax moths will come in and get it. So it's kind of restarting and taking out all that toxic comb. So really, I mean, there's no real point for us to have that if they don't have it in nature in the wild. So that is something I found was really interesting at Hive Life. And in a summary, Hive Life is a really good experience. It's a good time. You learn a lot, you meet a lot of new people, and it's very educational, it's beneficial. I mean, there's no real reason not to go. My favorite part there probably was seeing, I mean, there was over 2,000 people there. It was really cool to see over 2,000 people being there just because they love something and they want to know more about it and dive deeper into it. And there's people from so many different places. There wasn't people just from America, there were people from Canada, France, all kinds of places. So it was just a really good time. All I have.
Any questions, John? I got a question.
Yeah.
Is mom gonna send some of those pictures to Cayman?
Hopefully not.
I was wondering, I noticed you were taking some pictures.
Oh.
You're gonna send them to Cayman saying that he's paying it forward.
So there's some questions here. Let's see here. It says, does this apply to honey super comb too, or just the brood comb for swapping it out, I assume?
I mean,
It's yeah, I don't know.
I would assume mostly brood comb, but you could probably, it would be smart to change your super comb. Probably a bit longer of a time frame though. So instead of maybe 5 to 6 years, since they're not getting all the cocoons and everything reshaping, then it would probably be better to do it maybe 8 years or so.
Yeah, I was also at Hive Life and Bob Benny's presentation. He talked about 9 to 10 years. And I'm just wondering if Bob was talking about the actual super comb, where I know I've heard somewhere about the thing that the cocoons built up within the brood frames will tend to make the
Swipe up from the bottom.
will tend to make the combs smaller. And then the other thing is, Benny is mostly in the Appalachian area. So they might not have the intense pesticide, herbicide pressure that we would have here in Cornfield, USA. So for that reason, he may be able to say 9 to 10 years. You know, great, but for us, we might be dealing with a situation where we need to deal with you know, a need to eliminate chemical bound wax that is in the hives.
Actually, there was somebody on Facebook who had sent their honey away and said, oh, you know, like 15% of it was soybeans, which is interesting because soybeans also are typically treated with the neonics. So is that, so the honeycomb may have those neonics, which is kind of a slow insecticide, that maybe making our hives weaker. So.
And yeah, Bob he started, we started talking about that when we started back in the eighties in California, pollinating almond fields or orchards. And that led into his, they sprayed fungicide, which is just another word for pesticide, and then got him thinking, and then he led into the swapping out the brood whenever you can. 2 a year on a 10 frame. Every 5 years, you got you're cycling out your brood.
Another thing about hive life is Cayman has the whole thing videotaped or videoed. Let's not use the word tape anymore. It's a thing of the past, my past maybe. But the people who attend Hive Life are able, apparently he offers it generally to the public, but people that attend Hive Life can get the video series for half the cost.
Yeah.
So you might have that moment of saying, Landy Simone's here, and Bob Benny's here, which one do I go see? I want to hear what both have to say. And, given that you can get the video, you can access it, and it's accessed through Vimeo. And, once you get it, I think it's just permanent. You can re-access those videos all you want.
How many other club members attended Hive Life?
He was working.
Yeah. I would say it was by far the best beekeeping event I've ever been to. There's 2,400 people there. There's so many vendors. I mean, it was really well run. From what it sounds like, everybody complains about the food every year anyways, but it was a really good event. Like it was well put on, like Cayman really bust his tail, and you can talk to him there. Same thing with Bob Benny and Ian Stabler and Corey Stevens, and like everybody's there. And everybody's there after the show, like, hey, I'm going to so-and-so barbecue place for dinner, if anybody wants to join. And like it was pretty cool. Like it was a really positive experience. The vendor floor was worth it to me, like just to see all the stuff that was there and shake hands and talk to people from different companies and all that stuff. And it was pretty neat.
Is it always in the same location?
It's Sevierville, Tennessee. Yeah, it's a long drive.
8 hours.
8 hours?
I was doing a big box truck for that, so it took me hours.
It was very personable. It wasn't, everybody was accessible.
Yeah.
We were there Thursday night through Saturday night. And I love coffee, so I was in the coffee line all the time, free coffee. And Cayman Reynolds was in front of me and Richard Noel was right behind me, and we're talking, shooting flat, talking bees and waiting for our turn at coffee. And you don't get to go to very many seminars and actually get to rub elbows and talk with the people you're there to see. So it was pretty cool.
And they weren't hassled either. You asking her, talking to them, like I forget the guy, Noel.
Richard Noel.
Like, you gotta tell him to stop talking to you. Like, he was,
Yes.
he wants to hang out. He's was in France, but
France.
everybody's super friendly. I sat and talked to Bob Benny's wife for like a half hour, and she's like, I don't even want to touch these, but it was really interesting talking to the different people there. It was quite the experience. It was extremely well run.
For getting a scholarship to go. So, we had a minimal cost. We made a mini vacation of it as a family. I would pay to go back. I don't know. So it was good.
See a lot of kids there?
There was some, but mainly the youth sponsorship, and there,
Yeah.
but and there was some families there, but yeah, over 2,000 people.
Wow.
It was good and it was well run.
How much was that hotel there, like if you stayed at that hotel? Is that where you guys stayed?
We stayed at the one
Yeah.
connected to it that had,
Yeah, we stayed
that
at
way,
Williams.
his brother was in the water park.
Oh, okay.
His brother the water park.
While we were,
Those two could get in, but we couldn't, so we did the other thing.
it was fairly reasonable.
Yeah, and I
We
think it was two.
had a couple $100 out of pocket.
It's outside of season.
Yeah.
So I think everything's extremely reasonable that time of year. Some of the restaurants were sketchy trying to get into, they closed early and things like that, but. It was well run.
We would definitely do it again.
Do we have any hints or tips on the rotating comb from people here? Are people rotating comb?
Well, it's that hard thing because you know how much work it takes and how much honey it takes to make the comb. You're kind of like, where is that balance?
I can give you some input that, Springfield, Illinois had. And we had a small outbreak of EFB. And one of the things that we instituted with the club, or what we made people aware of, was to rotate their comb out. It's pretty easy when you're a onesie and twosie. It gets pretty tedious when you become commercial and you've got, 100 hives, 150 hives here. Trying to rotate it out. That being said, one of the best things to do is to not just rotate your comb out, but to feed your bees in the early spring and make sure that if they're stressed, you can feed them out of it. Absolutely, you can. But rotating your combs out, healthy bees, that's how you beat EFB. It's present in minute amounts across probably every apiary, but when the hive gets extremely stressed in the early spring, and it got out of control when Bob Walter is his name. It got out of control in his apiary and it snowballed and started getting into his strong hives. And then he had to go to the vet, and get the terramycin. Like I said, best thing to do is to rotate your combs, keep healthy bees, and avoid the problem altogether. So yes, they're right, that we should be rotating combs, absolutely. As far as the frequency of it, personally, I try to do about every 5 years. I don't really, the honeycomb, I don't really rotate that out. They're not brooding on that. They're putting honey in it. Well, I don't treat with honeycomb.
I run 8 frame mediums all throughout, so my brood and my supers are all the same. And I date all my frames, so I know when I put them into service. And then as my brood ones start to darken up, I'll take those out and start making wax out of them and take my honey supers, put them down in the brood chambers, and then let the bees start making more super foam.
Yeah.
I actually marked my, like you dated it, only I boo-booed and I dated it. Oh, I put them together and dated them all. So even though I didn't put them in the hive, they had a date on them. Oh, that's not what date you put on them.
Yeah, when you insert new combs now, I carry a Sharpie. That's
Yeah,
what I did on.
I
Wow,
learned.
this spray looks good. It's 20 years old.
I got some, and some from YouTube, and it's dated and stuff like that. All right, anything else about that? Okay, we're kind of instituting, Ken came up with a nice idea. We talked about, we take the feedback out of our classes, what's going on. And one of the things that we came up with, and Ken said he would run with it, so it's gonna be him, is kind of helping people. All right, this is the end of February, so we're at the end of the month. What should you be doing in March? So he's giving some suggestions. Some of you experienced beekeepers are more than welcome to join in on that. So Ken, you want to come up and talk them through this? So we're trying to give you the information on what you should be doing next month. All right.
So the whole thing we came up with was the thought of, the people that went to the beekeeping class said, I've been drinking from the fire hose. I only got a bucket this size, the size of this cup to carry that back home. Refreshing. So we came up with this idea that, we're ahead of schedule, so we're gonna have more time, so I hope we have lots of questions. Because it'd be great to go clear to the end of our meeting with questions. But we also didn't want to take the cookie cutter calendars that you see in books or, I've seen a calendar that looked like, you buy it at Walmart, but it's got beekeeping suggestions on it. But they may be a few weeks ahead of us. They may be a few weeks behind us. But they may not be quite right for us. We had the board meeting 2 weeks before, and I was, assigned to do this, so I was like, burning some midnight oil, like till 1 o'clock, I think, was when I sent out the email with my. I was like, I don't know if I can come up with anything that makes sense anymore. So anyway, if you're part of our Facebook group, my full document is out there that I put out there, just things that I know. I tried to get feedback from some of the other people that, we know is respected beekeepers that have been having good success in our area. And that's the important thing, is beekeepers who are having success in our area, what they would be doing at this time. I will admit that this document that I put together is grossly my work, and I hope you don't think it's too gross.
You gotta start somewhere, Ken.
That's right. So, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, so you did see the email, didn't I?
Yeah.
And you said, what? So anyway, but the idea is, and as we pointed out here, there's not definite iron fist, you gotta do it this way type rules. It's just things that we've experienced that seem to work for us. And that's where we're going from it. I broke the presentation down into 3 things. For the beekeepers that were beekeepers last year, and this is their first time going through winter. Sort of the things for them to think about. For new beekeepers, it's pretty easy because, make sure you order your bees. And then for all beekeepers, are things like equipment, that type of thing. So. Swipe.
No, just,
Maybe.
Pat, you had. Oh.
That's why we got top beat.
Okay.
He doesn't like your finger.
Okay, so like I said, these bullet points that I put together here are just that, bullet points. The document has the same information, but I've expanded on it some. So, I wish I would have been able to get it out a little bit sooner, because then you guys could have been looking at it and thought, what does he mean by one of the things that I had under Are Your Bees Alive is you got to inspect them somehow. You open up your hive, you look, you see them up on top, and you've put sugar bricks up on top or some sort of food source up on top. They're going to be up there munching on it. But I've got some hives that I have 16 hives I went into winter with. And right now I've still got 15 doing pretty good. So, and some are stronger than others, and some might still not make it to, tax day, which is probably a pretty much home free type thing, because by then you're going to start getting some stuff coming in significant quantities. I know people are saying right now, I've got pollen coming in, I see some, and that's good. But things that we thought of is, like you want to be as non-invasive as possible. So, one thing you could do is, go up to the site and wrap on the side. Now, Cynthia had said something about she thought she saw somewhere that wrapping on the side isn't such a good thing. I've heard the opposite, so, but if you wrap on the side, they might say, yeah, we're here, stop bothering us. And it's just buzz, but anyway, if you happen to you can get a little thing that's an attachment to your phone called a FLIR camera. It's a thermal camera. And you can use that to see if there's signs of heat within your hive. Other things, and Mac, what do you do to try to check for life in your hive?
Well, it's warm around the top, check the food storage and.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, we're having some 50, 60 degree days, so it's not bad to pop the top. But you don't want to get crazy and rotate the hive right now. So, Joey, you got any secrets?
Last week, I think it was last week, I opened the hives that I have and looked in there and just seen that the bees were alive and, I'll wrap on the hives, just once a month.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell where the bees are in the boxes.
Yeah.
And, this a week ago, I put on some shims and put some winter patties in there just to make sure they have enough food, because you're not out of the winter yet.
Yeah. Another thing you can do is you can get up above the hive, like if there's down there, let's say you had enough stores for them. And I had a couple of hives where I thought, man, those bees are gone. They're dead. I took a flashlight and shined down and looked. One, I saw bees down there. The other, I popped the box because I'm like, oh, there's still nothing there. Once I popped the top box, I found bees in the bottom box, and they just were not real happy for me to say hi. What to say. Another thing you can do is, I've gotten a little, and I think it was just sort of a giveaway thing that one of the vendors has given at a bee show, but it's sort of like a J hook. You can go through there. If you're pulling out lots of bees, you got a reason to be concerned that there's not many bees at the bottom. You might be all right. So don't be too invasive, especially if it's really cold. I think we're not going to be as in deep a doo-doo as we have been other Februarys at this time of the year. Do your bees have food? Now, I'm an advocate of whether you think you've got enough food in the hive, I'm going to put a sugar block up above bubble. Another thing that I found that I've gone to Pilco and gotten some called Hive Alive fondant patties. And I think it's got a little bit of an attractant of some sort. And I went through 2 weeks ago and gave them half of one of those fondant patties. And they chewed through that thing like it was nobody's business. And they're still working quite slowly on the sugar blocks. So, but they're all up there and chewing away. So that's an important thing to do. Right now, I've seen a lot of recommendations that a pollen patty might not be a bad thing to start putting in. Now, Tom has talked about at times, do I put that pollen patty in? Do I start pouring some food to them or not? We have had rough winters, or rough winter spurts, I should say. I can remember early in our beekeeping career, we had gotten through the winter 6 out of 10 hives. We got to the end of the March. It was 70 degrees. at about 3 o'clock, I think it was. And 3 o'clock, the temperature started dropping. We had a blizzard. By 6, I think it was down to 28. The bees did not have time to get back together into their configuration. And I lost 4 more hives out of those 6. So, and I think that's the thing you were pointing to, Tom, that, you take a risk when you start feeding them up.
Well, there's a couple of things. So if you feed with liquid, like if you put a frame feeder in, or you
Right.
have something where the bees can touch the liquid. If that's in there overnight, when it gets really cold and bees touch that, they're gonna get too cold and they'll kind of freeze in motion,
Right,
and they'll typically drown in it. So like if you can feed right now, but like bring it out, feed them while it's warm, make sure that syrup's warmer,
yeah.
like 50, 60 degrees. When you're feeding them, you don't want to leave it in overnight and then let them go into it, because they'll lock up in it.
Now, there's some top feeders that you could use that might be a little safer than a frame feeder. I've got the feeders that I like to use they look like a bundt cake pan. And they got a little cup that goes over the center of the bundt cake, and then they got a lid. And so you pour the water or the syrup in the sides of the bundt cake. And they come up through the cup and they come in and feed, and their heat is going up through there, so. That might be a safer kind of feeder right now. And, like I worry about like a mason jar feeder with holes in it. Because you can get heat that'll, make that sort of drip out. Moisture is not a bee's friend in cold weather. And, that could be an issue there. So, I think we want to have something that's more passive, like the bundt cake or the in-frame feeder.
I did was took a dead out hive,
Yeah,
had a friend, had a box of honey. I put that on one of my strong ones, it's going through a lot of food, so it's kind of like, okay, I'll just give you
right,
honey out the dead hive.
right. So
Can you hit the chat bubble, see if we have some questions?
check, there's a one. There's a wow. And,
Probably congratulating you on your winner.
oh, could be. It's not over yet. This is something that, not everyone may have gotten to get their mite treatments done in the time frame between Thanksgiving and Christmas. If you haven't gotten mite treatments done then, especially for those people, you might want to be considering a mite treatment of some sort. Oxalic acid may not quite be the answer at this time because they're starting to brood up. Oxalic acid requires sort of a broodless state. That's why you want to do it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. James, you're the man.
This time of year, what I've done in the past. I usually don't get into my hives other than just to check for food.
Yeah.
Until about March 15th. March 15th, I get into them enough. Last year, the last 2 years, I'll drop apivar strips in. And I'll give them some pollen patty, depending on the weather. You have to watch the
Right.
weather and then look at the forecast coming ahead, because if you're at March 15th and,
Yeah, and that's why I
You've got that
included
kind of
it,
situation.
because I realized today you may not want to think about it, but we're
But,
talking about what you do in March.
yeah, but your apivar strips are not temperature sensitive in the sense that you don't have to have a certain amount of warmth to be able to put those strips in and have them in the hive and helping you, not this my extent.
Okay, we'll move on to the next thing unless people have.
But there has been some issues with where some people have talked like the apivar strips may not be working as well as they used to.
Okay.
Just as a caveat.
Anyone else have any thoughts on the mic treatment? Okay, well,
Kill them all.
go on. Yeah,
I think even if they're rooted up, it's still not a bad idea to hit them with oxalic acid. Is anything you can do to drop your mic counts?
yeah, so it may not be a bad idea to get the club's oxalic acid kit, go out there and give them those little buggers out. I already said this, but don't be in a rush to rotate your hive bodies. You know, you rotate those hive bodies, you sort of set things into action and, you know, you may have those bees down lower in the hive and we get a hard frost type thing. They may not do so well. That's my opinion. I don't know some of the other more experienced beekeepers. How are you about the thought of rotating hives
Depends how
at this time
Depends how many
between now and
bodies
April 1st?
you running a single, a double, a triple? I run triples.
Yeah.
Me, I rotate. whenever I
But
feel
this
like it.
time from now to April
Oh,
1st.
I'd say that goes on your, what to do in April,
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah, then that's what I'm thinking. Also, don't be in a rush to remove whatever thermal mitigation you are using. Big words. Yes, sir.
You take your reducer out.
Your entrance reducer.
Yeah.
Okay,
mine out today, just so.
okay,
a new question for me.
yeah, right now,
Trying to fly and, it just lets them in and out easier.
yeah,
Now, I just had an experience when we moved those hives, I swiped a mouse guard off a hive that had died, put it on that to transfer the hives. Within 24 hours, the mouse moved in.
Boy, there's lots of mice right now.
I had Betty last year.
I don't.
We actually had one hive last year that a mouse got at the upper entrance. And we found that, the bees were very quick to dispatch them out. Because he was dead on top of the hive.
Right,
But he actually.
I need to be like that guy in Ghost.
swipe.
Oh, okay, swipe that way. Okay. I don't have bees, what do I do? And you gotta order some bees. We got some excellent
There's another
supplies.
guy here that, from Forest, he's gonna have
Okay,
maybe 10, 20 nukes, so get in touch.
okay,
Colin, is this your first year of selling? Or-
Yeah, this is our first year of selling.
Oh, you're lucky.
okay, so
Sorry, so-
Tom is honey pimp apiaries. And on the document, it's actually a live link there. John Hill at Hillco Bees in Minot. You want to get them from a little farther north, or was it Tom?
Colin.
Colin,
Yep.
okay,
Forest.
Yeah.
in Forest. Randy Washburn, Two Brothers Bees, you probably seen him a lot on the Facebook posts. He seems to be rather active. Rudy's Bees and Honeys, down in Clinton, Illinois.
He's come to a couple of our bees and brews, the last two bees and brews, and so, he's exploring, we're meeting more people within this.
Now, on the document, I actually stole some stuff that one of the guys had put there about the different kinds of nukes. There's two types of sources of bees as far as purchasing options. One is a packaged bees. You get this box of bees. It's just a mixture of bees. There's no comb, there's nothing except 3 pounds of bees, a queen, and a can of sugar syrup. And Tom, I believe you'd gone over how to install bees. Did we ever get that video out there on our website, or? We were gonna
That's actually a part of the topic for March, with installing bees.
okay. Okay. So we'll have information on installing bees, but right now you just need to know about ordering bees. Also, you can get nukes. Nukes are usually available a little later in the year. You know, like Tom's gonna be bringing what, the middle of April? His bees up,
Packages will be on the 15th of April, and then nukes will be whenever they're ready. So it's just that's, I guess the important thing, whoever you buy from, is ask lots of questions. So if they don't answer your questions, then don't buy bees from them. But ask all the questions, whether you think they're dumb or not, ask questions, because if you don't ask them, then the only person you can be angry at is yourself. So like, if you want to know when they're gonna be ready, that's a great question to ask, and if they, ask them about how they take care of the bees, if that's important to you, if you're a treatment-free person, and you want treatment-free bees, ask those questions. If you want, if you're looking for packages and the difference between a package and a nuke, if you're brand new and trying to decide what's the best option for you, like, if they don't give you the time to answer the questions, then maybe move on. But I think everybody on that page will probably talk your ear off about bees as well.
right? And then on the master document on the Facebook page, like I said, I stole some information that someone had posted when someone else was looking for bees. And they talked about 5 different types of nukes. I know they said, like a southern queen with bees from that apiary. You'll see nukes that are built with a southern queen and bees from a local apiary. You'll see people that, like James, I know last year you sold a few nukes, didn't you?
Yes.
And, I'm guessing, but I think James's reason for selling nukes is he wanted to have X number of hives, let's say 20. And he had brought through the winter, he came through with.
It was 12 out of 12.
Yeah,
And yeah,
so, he came through with extra more than what he wanted, and he sold this extra nukes.
they needed to be pulled back, and so we did splits on all the
Okay.
hives, so I could try to mitigate any kind of swarming, that kind of thing. And so I made some nukes and gave some to a buddy that helped me with it.
And Betty,
Tom, is there any laws, guidelines on nukes when you sell them as far as, travel and stuff like that? Where they go?
So if you buy bees that have comb, they have to be inspected if they've crossed the state, if they've crossed the county line.
line.
So for example, if you buy from Forest and you're in McLean, whether you're Livingston, right? Yeah, so Livingston and McLean County, they have to be inspected. So typically your person that you're buying these from will probably have them inspected ahead of time and tell you that they've been inspected by, whoever their person is. I think that'll still be Jim in there. I know some of the regions have been, there might be some changes there or not. So yeah, just ask those questions, because there's a lot of people selling bees now. I mean, a lot of people selling bees, especially on our page and on other pages and stuff like that. Ask lots of questions. What does a nuke mean? Because one person might say that means 3 frames of bees. Some people may say it's a 3-frame nuke. Some people may say it's 3 frames of brood and maybe an undrawn frame and a frame of feed. Like it can be anything and everything under the sun. So ask lots of questions.
So if they're on our Facebook page selling it, we have no guarantee or anything about their quality and stuff like that. So you do need to ask those questions and, kind of ask around.
Yeah, so as far as the difference between nukes and packages, they just shake out a bunch of bees and then they say, here's 3 pounds of bees and that's it. You may accidentally get a lot more older bees. You might get a lot of nurse bees.
Well, one time I got an extra queen.
Yeah, you can get that too.
Well,
Nukes have established that natural order that bees have. Bees, as they emerge, their first job is to be the cleanup crew, mostly clean up your own mess, darn it. And then they go on to different jobs. The younger bees are capable of making wax. The old field bees don't do wax anymore. But they go through their different stages of life, a nuke will be more balanced in its population. And that's an advantage. They, once you get them in your hive and started, they will progress. I would think, and at least to me, it seems they progress fast.
Another significant advantage that you have is you've got drawn comb that comes with the bees.
Right.
Instead of starting with a brand new, of course, some people have dead outs, they're gonna be starting with comb too, so.
Right.
But, you know, if you're starting brand new, if you get that, you're getting usually 4-ish frames of drawn comb.
Now, so you get sort of a running start on things, you know, the fact that you've got bees in those brood frames that are ready to emerge. You don't have to wait what is it, 24 days? From the egg laid to when the 21. Okay, that's drones.
21.
So anyway, you don't have that 3 weeks of time before there's more new bees showing up in your hive. So the other thing about the different types of nukes is you may find people that, like James is providing a local queen that had come from overwintered stock or actually overwintered himself. So there's a organization Tom's a member of, or are you still like the head honcho of it? IQI. IQI is the Illinois Queen Initiative. And their whole goal is to promote Illinois queens, not so much that, you know, they're better than, you know, some of the Buckfast or, you know, anything else, but queens that have adapted to our locale are likely to be better adapted for your purposes. Would you agree with that, Tom?
Maybe. Everybody's got their own views and
Yeah.
everybody thinks different things and that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure there's a magic bee. If you
Well,
find a
yeah,
magic
that's
bee's not one, but there's a lot of different things and pros and cons to everything.
Okay, well, then the next thing I have here is all beekeepers, whether you're a new beekeeper that hasn't had any bees or a beekeeper that, you know, this is your first year through, or, you know, maybe your third year, and you still want a refresher. Is my equipment ready? That's a big thing right there. Oh, I was gonna quickly mention before I went on to this, you know, I hear a number of people, not a great number, but a certain number of people that talk about catching a swarm. That's how they're gonna get their bees. And catching a swarm, Matt, you brought your swarm traps that you make. Can you bring your swarm trap up here? Don't count on swarm traps to get you your first bees. They're great for,
Catching your own bees.
yeah, and that's my biggest use of my swarm traps. And there's sort of a guy named Jim Seeley, I believe his name is. Tom Seeley. Jim was his younger brother that didn't respond. But anyway, he found out that basically about 1.5 times the size of a 5-frame nuke is the ideal size for bees. And I can tell you pretty close to that.
Well, it's 5 frame, this is 5 frame.
Mac, you want to talk about
But
it a
it's
little bit?
taller.
Yeah. So I make the swarm traps for Hilco bees. And so what it is essentially 15 picosecond sheeting. And we when we're putting them together, we try to, doesn't really matter because most people paint them, but we try to put the rougher side on the inside. There's some research that says that they'll propolis the inside of a hive, or in their hives in the wild, they completely coat the inside of their hive with propolis. So we'll put the rubber parts on the inside. The whole thing I like about this, I put these up in a tree, generally 10 to 15 feet up. And if you want to, say for instance, you have an open meadow and you have trees around the edge. Put them on the, I put them on the edge of an open area of the forest rather than, or woods rather than putting them inside. Deeper, but you can put them in there as well. I have mesh that I put in here to keep birds out. And when I put a full frames in here, there's a space about that much in the bottom when I put the frame in there, so there's room for them to move. I bait them with lemongrass oil. Some people, you can buy bait attractant or whatever, yeah, and put it in there. And one of the things I learned the hard way a little bit was, you think if you put like 3 drops of lemongrass oil are good, 12 is even better, but you can, there's an interesting balance between how much you put in and it becomes a repellent as opposed to an attractant.
It's kind of like going out on a date, putting half the bottle on.
But they love that fruit aftershave.
Yeah. So that'll keep the birds out. On ones that I've hung, I get big 16 penny nails, maybe 2 or 3 of them, put it in the tree. But I know John at Hilco has a strap with a hook on it that you can strap around the tree and it'll grab a hold of the.
Those work really nice.
Yeah, they do. I also, just for safety's sake, I'll put a strap around the body of it too. Just so it doesn't fall.
It's handy for getting it back down to the ground too.
Yeah, right. Because that, to Tom's point, if you have one of these hooks on a strap, you can put it in here and lower it down to the ground. This one here, I make this with a little lip here on the top so that it won't necessarily come up. I've made some too where I'll notch it out so it even comes back further. Just to keep it off, but I put these eyelets on here and a bungee. Just to also keep it from wanting to pop up. When I've gone up and what I typically do is I'll take one end and bend it down so it doesn't come off, and then have the other side so that I can take it off, and that way there, I don't lose the bungee when it goes when I take it off. The nice thing about these, and you can get these at Hilco Beads too, although I think I've used all this plastic and it's got stainless now, which would work fine. But it gives you some options to keep some ventilation in there. So I open it up like this. You could move it and make it smaller if you wanted to. But then when I'm ready to take the swarm down, I can move it like that. So there's still some ventilation in there, and generally, they're fine. I have made some swarm traps in the past where I drilled holes in the side for ventilation. But what I found is that they propylized. And so generally, if a bee tells me something, I try to pay attention. And so that was extra work anyway, because I drill these holes on either side, put hardware cloth on the inside. And when a swarm would get in there and be working it, and they would propolyze it. So I stopped doing it. And generally that's pretty much it. And the timing of it, of when you hang it, what do you put inside it? You don't just leave it empty like this. This is where I can use some of those old frames and old comb. Because you want to have a little bit of, when the scout bees go out and they're looking around, they're going to be smelling around for wax and all that kind of stuff. And so I'll put some older comb in there. I'll put some maybe with a little bit of honey in it, just as a little enticement. And generally what I'll do, and I was talking to Tom at lunch the other day. What I'll do, one thing I've done is that I've taken like a Ziploc bag and put the lemongrass oil on a Q-tip. I'll put a little bit around the entrance, but then put it in the bag so it doesn't evaporate quite so quickly, so it has a little more staying power. But I haven't tried this yet, but I want to do it this year, is take a straw, plastic straw, and like with those heat sealing things, like you can seal it so you have the straw about that long, you cut it off and seal each end, and then inject a little bit of lemongrass oil in it and put it inside, so it doesn't evaporate as quickly, but it also stays on. Now, I've had in the past, I've also had to rebait it after a certain amount of time, you know, after a couple months. But we're moving into the season now as the bees get, those that have made it through the winter and are starting to grow and maybe thinking about swarming. In the next couple months or so, this would be the time to put one up in your tree. I know that John sells them through Hilco. I have an interesting balance because I make them for John, so I don't necessarily sell them.
So
I wouldn't
you
mind.
can buy that swarm trap at Hilco,
Yeah,
that exact swarm trap.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You make
You know what he's getting already.
Well, he's doing pretty well. Yeah, I think he charges $90. But whether it's $50 or $90, that's still cheaper than buying a package of bees.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is you almost, when it's ready to take it down, you essentially have a nuke. So you can take those bees out of there that have set up shop and just move them into a larger box and go from there. Sort of fun if you have it near your bee yard. Like I have a bee yard out in rural Danvers, and the PK's point, I think one of the swarms I caught in there was probably one of mine, which is fine. I'd rather me have it than somebody else. But it's sort of fun when you go out and check the bees and look up in the trees, see if you see any activity around there, and you know, hope and pray for the best. But so materials for these, I use I get it at Lowe's or at Home Depot. Tom helped me with that initially because we were making new boxes a couple of years ago, and they'll cut it for you on whatever the title is. So that's that saw, and then I can take it back and I cut it. These, the sides are 7.5 inches. The between here to here, the fronts are 19 1/4 by 15 3/4. Tops 22 inches, and I use like 1x2s for this. And
That's the Cornell design, right?
I'm sorry.
That's the Cornell design, right?
Yeah, essentially.
So you can
This-
just Google to get the exact plans.
I mean, I could put it up online. What I did really was take a nuke box, extend it, made it a little bit taller and drill a hole in. So, you know, it's essentially a nuke box you put in the tree. And I've seen people lately trying these, using 5-gallon buckets and all this. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, but this is really great. It's like you get a nuke. Nature gives you a nuke. And so
The advantage of using a nuke box like this, where you have like straw equipment already in it,
right.
is if they're in a 5-gallon bucket, you just get these sheets of comb, because when a swarm initiates, the bees that fly with the queen, they have just sucked down a whole bunch of honey. And they go out, and even though they've gone past their wax making stage, they can revert back to that stage, and they draw a comb like crazy. So, you know, I sort of recommend in a swarm trap that you don't give them all established home, make them work for their home. And give them at least a frame for.
But they can, the
building.
queen, if she comes in here and you have decent comb already pulled, she can start laying right away.
Well, yeah, you want that.
Yeah.
But you also want them to,
So,
you know,
PK,
Okay, a comment and two questions. I caught it swarm and I thought, oh, let me just sit there for a while. Go build the comb on the bottom of those leaves, but it was a nice size because when I cut it off, it was the exact same.
yeah,
size
that's what
as the-
I had too, but, and in that one, it was sort of interesting, one of them was drone comb.
Yeah.
And so they were getting ready probably to go again, you know,
Now I've had two things. One, problems with ants getting in there. And the other one, we've got one that the squirrel just,
they gnaw on the edges.
yeah.
But I haven't had any get in.
And-
from-
Oh, I had one that go all the way through and stuff.
Wow.
What about mice? Well, about mice.
Mice, well, it's 10 or 15 feet up in the
Looks like
tree.
you're stapling harbor cloth too on the inside.
On here,
You
Well,
usually staple harbor cloth on the inside, right?
well,
Yours.
the opening's gotta be big enough for them to get in.
But I'm saying you're stapling like
Hardware cloth.
big hardware cloth over it to keep birds and
1/8 inch or
critters out.
something.
It's more like chicken wire.
Yeah, this is chicken wire in here now, but you can also do like, what you put around your garden, as long as it's like 3/8 of an inch or a little bigger, the opening, so they can get in and out. I suppose a mouse, if it climbed up the tree, could still get in this one, but, I have seen ants. But they don't seem to be an issue. Big issue.
Cockroaches,
I'm sorry?
cockroaches.
Oh, yeah.
They
What-
tend to-
what are
I don't know why, but my swarm traps get cockroaches.
Yeah, so fortunately, I haven't had any cockroaches yet.
Yeah,
That
that
makes a boom.
Yeah.
you want to make sure you check it before you take
Yeah,
it.
well, yeah.
Another suggestion is put it someplace you go. So like, I walk my dogs on my property, so I have it where, okay. Yeah, maybe a little bit better there, but I'm not gonna check it over there, where if I'm walking the dogs every day, I can at least look and, oh, yeah, somebody is there.
Yes.
I think we're gonna deep dive into this in April. I
Yeah.
think it's April.
And
Yeah, the big reason for me mentioning swarm traps right now is you don't want to be saying, oh, I just came back from the April meeting and I want to get my swarm traps out because I might have an early spring and they might be ready to swarm in 2 days. Now I've got to go buy one, I got to paint it and get it ready in place.
John will wax dip those too.
No, he's no longer wax dipping now.
He's gonna be wax dipping again.
I asked, I actually did some research on painting it. And some people say it doesn't really matter what color, and so like if you do it bright enough that you can see. The contrast of the bees against the lighter color, that's fine too, so.
Yes, for those of you that don't know, Mac is with Salem for Youth. He's one of the head cheeses there, so he also runs their bee program up there. And if you're interested, definitely shake his hand and talk to him. He loves to have people come out and play with the bees. We're gonna do a couple of hands-on workshops there in May, June, and hopefully July. One will probably be a queen rearing, one will be like general inspections, one will be doing splits and stuff like that. So he's got like 13 hives in that neighborhood up there. Also, shameless plug, he's looking for sponsors still to sponsor hives up there. So if you'd like to help the boys out, help Mac, definitely talk to him and he'll let you know how you can do that.
Okay, let's move on. So. If you haven't gotten equipment, you need to get equipment. Hilco is an excellent supplier. They're up in Minot. And, you can just drive up there and pick stuff up. He will ship, but if you go up and pick it up, you get a discount on what the website price is. So, it is probably worth your time to go up. And you get to see all the cool stuff if you haven't gone to High Life like we've got to do. You need to assemble your equipment because most times you're going to get your equipment flat pack. That means it's like IKEA, you get the wood, you got to put it together. Now, Hilco does sell assembled hives, but it's a little bit cheaper to get flat pack and put it together yourself. Make sure you have set up a way to make sure that your box stays square. So, you know, even if it means clamping a 2x4 here and here and pushing it against this way and using box clamps to clamp this way and clamp this way when you're putting it together. I myself like to put glue at my joints and especially on my frames when I'm putting together frames. I've had enough instances where they propolize the frames in tight and I've broke the frame loose from the ears of the frame. So tight bond, the glue is stronger than the wood itself as far as that joint is concerned. So once you got it all assembled, seal your new equipment with paint, polyurethane or wax dip, whatever may suit your purposes. I've seen people that haven't painted and it takes a little while, but it does deteriorate the frame boxes quicker. And Tom, you recommend painting on the edges, right?
I think the tops and bottoms and the outsides,
So, yeah, don't paint the inside.
at least 2 coats.
Yeah, but that at least keeps the box solid. And then, especially if you've had dead outs, or, you know, you just have equipment that you used in the summer, but it's now sitting in your shed. We're missing a lot of the cold weather, so it should have been like last month if you've got hives, old equipment. But, you know, if you can, scrape it off, scrape the excess propolis and wax inside the hive boxes. There's also people that recommend charring the inside of the boxes, especially if you had a dead out and you suspect there might be some sort of disease influence. If it's real bad, you may not even want to use that equipment. Yes, ma'am.
A voice of experience, when you get a dead out, clean it out, because last summer I thought, oh, I'll get to it, didn't get to it. A lot of wax moths and hive beetles, and I fought it the rest of the summer.
Yeah,
And they get moldy.
yeah, so, but yeah, lightly char the inside of the boxes to sanitize. It's, and then look at your old equipment that's showing signs of the protective coating wearing off. You know, if you need to repaint it so that your equipment will last longer. Lumber prices have gone up and I like to use my equipment as long as I can. Make or buy a swarm trap or two. So,
And nukes. Make
yeah,
some nukes.
yeah, you always want to have some extra equipment. So, you know, like even if you say, oh, I've got a one hive, that's all I'm getting, and I don't want to get too much bigger than that. You still want to be able to have something that, if it looks like they're going to swarm, you might want to do something to move the queen and some of her brood over into another box. Let them get past that swarming impulse. And you might newspaper combine them later on. If that's all you want, is one box, or you could always sell that nuke to someone else and let them enjoy beekeeping as well, not to compete with you. Anyway, that's the gross part of my presentation for things to do in March, or things to be thinking of in March, considering in March. There's probably many things I've missed. You know, there might be some of you out there going, "Oh, shit." I was watching a YouTube video last night of a guy that he put his first 365 days as a beekeeper, and he did a tremendous job. He was an English lad. And I'm sitting there watching it and I'm going, oh my goodness. He's got swarm cells and he did do a split. but he removed every single queen cell in the other box except for one. I think that's a little risky myself. Other people might be fine with it. I would not get rid of every single swarm cell if I'm doing a walkaway split like that.
We're gonna talk about that in April.
So good reason to come back next month.
We wouldn't want that.
Any other any questions? I mean, anything that I haven't talked about, it might be because I don't think it's quite time to do it, but it's open game right now. We've got 20 minutes. Now 18.
I'll make a comment on kind of
Yes, sir.
something Tom said and what you've said about now. I seen it, can't remember who, but it was on a YouTube video. But you know, we think about, hey, I want my bees to make honey. You know, a lot of people, they want that honey. Well, when's the nectar gonna start coming in? And I know who it is, David Burns. He meant, you know, by the time when the queen lays that egg, it's gonna be 40 days before that bee starts foraging for nectar.
Well,
So in theory, roughly, by the
Yeah,
time
I
it's 20, you know, it hatches after
Yeah.
queen and then does its nurse feed
yeah,
work.
from
Does the
the time
inside
it
hive.
hatches, it's
Gonna
gonna
be
be
about
about
40
45
days.
days life after the call.
And so we're what, March 1st? 40 days, we're gonna be pushing April 15th. Then
Yeah.
nectar start getting, so if it's warm enough, start feeding pollen a little bit now, get that queen to maybe get in the queen in the egg laying mode. So we can have forager bees when the nectar is ready to go.
Right.
Otherwise, you're gonna be behind and it's gonna, you know, they're not gonna be foraging until say May 1st.
You do want to do things to see the colony build.
I thought that was very interesting when I seen that. I'm like, you know, I never thought of that. I go, oh, I got my package of bees on April 15th, throw it in, boom. Or bring me, you know, but you gotta,
Now, I've got a
Take into
question
account
that maybe Tom or Joe or someone will have an answer for me, because my wife and I have been having discussions, because I'm saying, yeah, there's those spouses that don't want to talk bees, and there's spouses that will have a distinctly different opinion than yours, and will express it with some vigorousness.
His and her views.
Yeah, yeah, we couldn't decide what we wanted to do, so we split the kids. She didn't want as many, and I can have as many as I want, but I don't touch her hives unless she asks me to. Or
And she's supervising you.
or I beg her to say, could I please have that queen cell, because that's a heck of a colony there, and I'd like to propagate more of that. So anyway, but yeah, the question that we've been discussing lately is I'm wanting to give them a little more feed, get them, you know, some feed that may get the brood colony going. She's going, you do that, they're gonna want to swarm early on you. The question I got is, if they don't have drones yet, are they gonna swarm, or are they gonna? Have you ever had that where there's no real drones in the colony yet?
Well, they'll go to their own congregation, and so it's an area where the bees.
But-
some other hives.
But if you got 10 hives and you're looking at all 10, and you're not really seeing any drones yet, or maybe 2 or 3 here and there. Are they gonna have a drone fund, or will it be it's just a weak drone congregation?
Well, I mean, my understanding is the queen will fly 9 miles to a different drone
Yeah.
congregation area.
Yeah.
So that they don't. Doesn't make it the problem. you know.
So I run Michael Palmer Dell nukes. To answer your question, yes, they'll swarm without drones in those nukes. Generally speaking, in production hives, I see loads of drones before they swarm.
Well, that's an indicator, really.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned, I try to accelerate my bees too soon. Then you start fighting swarming. That's my biggest issue is I seem to be fighting swarming all the time. And so this year, I'm kind of kicking back and gonna wait a little bit longer before I start, because I would rather for those bees to peak a week or so, or maybe 2 weeks into the flow. So then they will settle down in the flow because they're already working the flow, and they do that instead of swarming.
When's your peak, James?
When is what do you mean my peak? Well, actually, that's my problem is I've been peaking too early.
No, I'm saying, when are you shooting for peak flow?
Peak flow, I would say actually, really, it's hard to know, May, but actually, a lot of people, they talk about that they don't have anything coming in July, but I have, for some reason, I have stuff coming in through at least 2 weeks in July. I run a little bit later. And I'm around a lot of farm, so I'm sure there's some soybean in there and that kind of thing, but usually I'm not pulling honey until the third week in July. Third week in July, I pull everything. I pull it all. But that's my problem, and I'm sorry, I'm a terrible bookkeeper. But I've always had them where those bees are getting too strong too quick, and then I gotta fight them with swarming.
Well, that's what I was trying to have you say, is like, when are you shooting for them being at peak strength?
Really,
Usually like your
as
honeysuckle
far as
flow
I'm
or
concerned. The
your
beginning.
sweet clover.
Oh, it's interesting as far as flows are concerned. There's two different types of flowers as far as when they flower. There's flowers that will flower based on the actual length of the day. And there's flowers that will flower according to growing degree days. And our commercial agriculture reflects this in that corn is growing degree days. No,
Oh, sorry, soybeans are.
soybeans are, what is it, they're photosensitive, let's say. And they will, like, if you have a soybean field near a barnyard where there's a mercury light out there, you'll see a patch just right near that mercury light where the beans stay green longer than the beans out past the limits of that light. And I think goldenrod is like that because we have what's called a broodminder scale on one of our hives. The scale takes a reading once every hour, 24/7. And we have goldenrod in our area. And it's been just regular as clockwork, right around September 15th is when I see the goldenrod flow start producing results in the hive. The weird thing is it only lasts about 9 or 10 days. I've seen it go as much as 10 pounds of nectar brought in a day in a hive.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. You posted those pictures last year on
Yeah.
the Facebook page. It was pretty cool.
But it's been that, it may vary by September 13th, September 15th, September 17th. But I've been watching it, and the goldenrod in our area seems to hit consistently at the same time.
And that was kind of my point of asking James when his flow was, because his flow and my flow could be dramatically different. Or
Right.
even, your flow over on 6 Points Road versus my flow on 150 and Swana Barnes could be wildly different.
Right.
Like and it could be wildly different each year. It depends, let alone going down to Springfield or like Randy, wherever he's at, I forget, I feel like maybe a little bit further than Springfield. But like it could be wildly different.
Yeah, I'd say the plants that are growing degree responsive are going to be the ones that, and it seems like the springtime is going to be where we're going to see that greatest differentiation. In that, I was just out 2 days ago and I've got a pussy willow tree I noticed just at the top, the tips are just starting to show little bits of white, so the pussy willows will be out as a bee source. So, you know, we've got what I think is probably an exceptionally warm time period right now, and it'll spur certain plants to bloom early, to produce early, and the bees will be finding them. Other years, it'll be a cold, wet spring, and you won't see the bees do what they do as early as they are likely to be doing now. We could be hit 2 weeks from now with a cold snap that lasts for a month. And all of a sudden, all bets are off on what we're doing. So, you know, it's just a crapshoot, I guess. But, and that's why we're trying to, you know, sort of, I hope we can keep this set of documents that we'll be building going, and then modify it each year and you know, use our collective experience to bring our focus in for central Illinois versus northern Chicago versus southern Illinois. Cayman Reynolds is a great resource, but he's a month ahead of us, really.
Yeah, he's building highs up right now.
And David Burns, as far as a YouTube video, I'm not a big fan of David Burns as far as his style, but I'll watch him right now through the main season because he's as close as we got to a regularly posting YouTube videographer that, you know, and the thing is, it's nice because he's just a little bit south of us. So if David posts his video, says, yeah, I've got bees coming in, there's pollen and nectar, I might count on it being about a week later and I'll be ready to go with the same.
He's just an hour away. He's
Yeah. So anyway, hopefully this helps, especially the people that were new in our beekeeping classes. And help me, Joe, Matt, Tom, you know. I'll try and get a video, an April document together a little quicker. And if it's all right with you, I don't mind people saying no, but
Oh, well, what I'll do is I'm gonna take your document, if it's okay with you, and then email it to people too, because some people don't.
oh,
have
okay.
Facebook.
Yeah, it's a PDF on the Facebook group.
Yeah, I saw that. So. I forgot to say, next month we have a kind of two interesting topics. It's a little different. We have Dr. Nager, I think is how he pronounces his name. He's actually in California. He's been doing research on how to use mycelium, in other words, mushrooms, spores to be able to combat viruses. So he's going to do a Zoom presentation. And then we're going to follow, the second half will actually be Dave Anderson. He's with Totally Normal Fungus. He's a gentleman that makes mushroom logs, okay, makes mushroom logs, but he uses beeswax in that process. So he's going to show how, you know, how to make them and how he uses beeswax in that process to it. So it's kind of a mushroom topic meeting. But we kind of did, so it's a little bit off.
That's the same gentleman that spoke last year on the mushroom using the percent of solution. I think he tested
Okay,
Washington State.
Nick described it. Nick talked about it, but this is the actual guy
Okay.
who the person who's doing the research from California.
I think he's like a Paul Stamets.
Okay, so this is the actual guy that is working with mycelium research as far as using that for the viruses and stuff like that. So
And the third half of that is supposed to be a brief discussion on installing packages.
okay, all right. So
I said third half because you had already used the first and second half, so.
wow, I mean, that's what I meant. All right.
And April, as Tom has mentioned several times, we're going to be talking about hive inspections, splits, and hive management.
And probably in April, we'll start the hives, and you're more than welcome to come up and see them. And
So it's April when Thompson started his video productions.
Yeah, so, well, it's not video production, so there's a lot of people on the Facebook page asking questions, like new people getting started. And I don't know, I talked to some other people, and said, why don't we just do some chalk talks? So like, it's a concept that I have at work where we'll explain technical concepts to one another. Like something that we might have worked with or something, kind of show and tell kind of deal. Where we can pick some topics and just spend 30 minutes talking about it and answer some questions here and there. And then, I mean, anybody's welcome to help with that, so like, definitely jump in. If you want to talk about how to make nukes and stuff like that, that's great. We'll take any help from anybody. It's not just me.
Right?
What's that?
We'll be videotaped and posted on our.
Yeah, I'll do them on Zoom and I'll save the recording just like these. So like our meetings, I put them on our YouTube channel. So I've been trying to save them off as I can and download them. I have really slow internet, so it takes me a while to download them. And then a while to upload them.
can't you do that at work?
It is early retirement.
What was that, Louis?
When you said are you talking about your personal YouTube channel, you're talking about the CIBA?
No, it's on CIBA.
CIBA, yeah.
Anything else anybody wants to add? Announcements or any
So you're
surprises?
selling nukes. Do you want to talk a little bit? So what are you selling?
I'll probably have, 10 to 15 available this year.
Are people excited?
I bought a new business card. I am completely new to selling nukes, I should say. So just throwing my name out there if you are interested. So it won't be just a lot on that, but I thought I'd start locally with the club and just, throwing it on there.
These overwinter?
Yes, these are overwintered. So,
Well, you have-
no, I'm sorry. These are overwintered, not nukes, not in like 5th grade nukes. These are overwintered colonies that will be split into nukes.
They overwear queens.
Yeah. Well, most of them will be. I am extremely interested. I was gonna have you afterward about the VSH. That's highly controversial. I'm finding out. I was talking to you.
It's not. Everyone's had.
But Tom, well, when I thought I highly assumed that he was kind of like threw my VSH thing in the rest.
Everything's controversial.
Yeah, everything's controversial.
That's good.
Yeah, but that's fun. You're right.
Tom, is the IQI gonna have a meeting this year?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
We've been in a pause with COVID and all that
Yeah.
stuff and trying to
And
decide
then
what we're
get
gonna
back
do,
up,
how we're
yes.
gonna arrange meetings. And what we find is that Illinois is such a big state. So for like our beekeepers down in Cairo to come up to somewhere like Bloomington, that's a 6-hour drive or 5-hour drive. And then for our friends up in like Galena, that's a 3-hour drive for them to get here and stuff like that. Very similar to what ISBA probably struggles with when they do their summer meetings. So that's why they kind of move it around in the state, is just to kind of give that variety. But it's we've been kind of leaning towards Zoom because everybody can jump on there and not have to blow a day of travel to get back and forth and stuff like that. And we can bring in a lot better speakers for a lot less money on Zoom. So it opens up some things, but there's nothing like a real meeting and getting to meet people and shake hands and do all that stuff. So there's pros and cons to all of it. Nobody's happy either way. So we're trying to decide.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else anybody else wants to announce?
Pay your dues.
You can pay your dues if you're not, if you haven't gotten a membership from me saying I receive it, $20, $10 goes to ISBA, $10 to us. If those of you who are in the class, that's part of your membership. Thank you for your donation.
One of our main reasons why we stay part of the ISBA is that they offer insurance for us when we have events. So like when we have our hive inspections and stuff like that, we tell them ahead when we're gonna do that, and then they'll give us some insurance for that event. Or like when we had them at Sugar Grove Nature Center, that allowed us to be able to have them at that facility where they're more comfortable because there's some insurance when people come and inspect and go through that stuff. So that's a big reason why our club is part of the ISBA, among other reasons.
They support us, we support them, so it is, and just like we try to support our local beekeepers, that's what beekeeping is about, that support back and forth. And again, any of these people who have been with hives for a long time, they are more than willing to have you come out and do an inspection. Tom will say, hey, come with me, and I'll take you through 20 hives real quick. And then you kind of really get to see what's going on, and, oh, this one's different from this one, and this one, you know, what does that mean? So he'll be quick. When I do our club hives, I will take my time, and if we spend, an hour going through a hive, I'll take as much time as you need. And again, having you look at the frames and understand what's going on in the hive and how I'm reading it and how what you may do and some things like that. So, yeah. And I thank the teamwork that helped me move those hives, because we arrived at Sugar Grove at 10 o'clock, and they were 5 hives were moved in by 10:35. Gone. So, and
Jim, can I ask a couple questions to the whole group? I've noticed that I am way behind. Like, you guys are like in YouTube, like, oh, big time. And I need to catch up, clearly. I do. I mean, I heard of highlight. I was on a ship at the time, so I couldn't have made it even if I tried. Regardless,
Well, something you might be interested in is if you pay for YouTube, which is another cringe moment probably, but if you pay for it, you can download them. And you'll have them on your phone while you're on the
I didn't
ship.
even know you could do that.
Yeah.
we speak in our group, right?
Well, I'm aware of YouTube, but I use it, but, so I learned classes, like, I read a whole bunch of books. Are people familiar with some of the names that I'm gonna rattle off? Dr. Larry Connor, very well, good. Dr. Keith Tarpey, Jamie Ellis, Tom Seeley,
Yeah.
good. All right, so I watched a video called the Fat Bee Guy. Okay, and he talked about checkerboarding. Someone did that in March.
Yeah.
So you gotta take it with a grain of salt, and I
He's also in Arkansas.
Yeah, well, that's
Even
one,
still,
that's one of the things like, that's one of the things like Kane Reynolds does, is he will say, okay, I'm in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm doing this time of year, and he has a lot of perspective, on, he doesn't do what the guy in Canada does, Canadian Beekeeper, he doesn't do what the guys, Bob Penny, and the same timing. Those timings are all different.
That's a large part of what.
Bob Penny is it North Carolina?
In that tri-state area, North Carolina and Georgia.
Well, he's on YouTube, right?
Yeah, yes, he's a commercial beekeeper. I myself, I try to stick to certain people who are commercial beekeepers who are successful. I try to pattern my practices off of them, and it's helped me a lot. I've watched Canadian Beekeeper, Kane Reynolds, Bob Benny, those are all pretty very good.
I found him by backwards seeing who he's worked with, Sue Covey. So
You want to nerd out, he's your man.
yeah, he's really interesting. I find it amazing. See, so one of the things that the ISBA is probing to say, hey, we need sources of revenue. We'd like to raise dues, for example, but we want to get feedback in general. And I was talking to PK about this. Generally, the feedback has been, well, I'm not against it, but what exactly is the ISBA doing? And so to that extent, hey, we're trying to get speakers, we're trying to encourage the clubs to get speakers, will help offset the cost, stuff like that. But most importantly, the Zoom is actually one of the things that can be used to help offset the desire for bee education. In other words, it provides an avenue for people to communicate and to educate. If the ISBA, for example, would get the big Zoom package, you guys could host a meeting with the speaker coming in and have 500 attendees on Zoom, unlimited. It's automatically recorded and dubbed, and you can post it to your website if you so choose.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, and you buy the big $2,500 package with all that.
No,
that's
Yeah,
fine.
so,
he's
That's
saying
$500.
they would buy that big package, and we would have access.
yes, and you would have access, but every club would have access to it, and every club could, well, you guys choose whether or not you actually post your videos. I mean, it would be the club's personal choice if they even participated. But that's something that we've been knocking around, and we're very open to suggestions, especially for sources of revenue.
I was kind of watching Tom, I didn't see many questions.
Yeah, it looked like there's just one that popped up.
Yeah, that says kind of thing.
You're talking about what the ISBA did. I think that was the question that lost ISBA to CIBA, part of Illinois beekeepers up in the Peoria area. And I was still a newbie beekeeper, but I was at least there to hear their arguments. And apparently someone had a relative that could give them an insurance package is competitive with what ISBA was.
Well, I was just at their last meeting and they're paying $400 for a 1-day certificate of inspection.
This was when they made the decision to drop.
Yeah,
that part of it.
Yeah, because as far as I know, you're not charging us, or.
As far as my understanding is they left. This is way before my time, guys, and I'm paraphrasing.
We're not kids messenger.
Yeah, I understand they left for an entirely different reason. It wasn't because of the ISBA, it was a very personal reason, is my understanding.
Or it could be.
Apparently, one of the officers basically took a dump on a member of the Heart of Illinois, and the whole club left as a result. It was that bad. There's a lot of bad blood there. And apparently it's still a little tender, so they may decide to rejoin. I wasn't even there to represent the ISBA, I was there as myself. And they started talking, well, who's the central region during, my wife was with me. Who's the central region during, we don't even know. And Hannah spoke to me, she stand up, I was like, I'm not here as the ISBA, I'm here as me. And then he goes, well, he hasn't been here, she hasn't been here for 4 years, it doesn't really matter, we don't even know what his name is. And Anna's grabbed me and stood me out, and that would be me, trying to muscle through this and figure it out. And that's when I learned about what happened, and it's not a very pleasant story. And
Like I said, I was pretty new to beekeeping. And I was just saying, I really don't want to hear this political stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't want to hear about bees.
yeah, and well, to your point, that's the ISBA's focus, is to educate and to facilitate the education of people that want to learn. Especially to make it accurate and relatively, well, what we aspire, hopefully is free. In other words, you're paying for it through your membership. And giving people access to good, accurate information is paramount to good beekeeping.
Well, I appreciate you coming, and hopefully we'll see more. I will ask if you'll stack your chairs over here and we can fold the tables, because the girl out front has to lock up. So that's how they go. And the table's still in the corner. Take them.
I don't know, I was.
Got a lot on.
Well, did I do all right, Jane? I sure wanted something to do. I didn't realize. Oh, it's all cool. I got him, you know. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh my God.